Hi, and welcome back to Mountaintop Repair Shop. If you've seen any of my earlier videos, you'll remember a repair that we did on a programmer that was specific for the Roland Alpha Juno. That was the PG-300. It provided sliders on a control board to give the user full control of all of the synth's parameters. That was in 1985. Finally, Roland released its first digital synthesizer in 1987. That was the D-50. I say finally because Yamaha released their first digital synth, several years earlier. In true 80s style, they gave us a keypad and a joystick to navigate. There were also a selection of function keys that corresponded with the screen. There were patch selection buttons and also buttons with their own specific operation. But if you wanted the true experience, you needed the PG-1000. This programmer has 56 slide pods. 54 of them have 6 jobs per patch, and 2 of them only have 4 functions. If you ever watched Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1, you're listening to the D-50. This programmer has been stored away in several different places for many years. So we'll take a look at just how responsive these sliders are, and then we'll tear it down for a good deep cleaning. We'll first get started by plugging this thing in. This programmer has a screen that reflects values in real time, so checking fader response is made easy. We can see that this screen's backlight still produces light, but only a minimal amount. Next, we will check just how well the faders are working. We can see that the first one is already jumping values and unable to stabilize. The second one, on the other hand, is operating properly despite being very dirty. The PCM fader operates properly until it reaches the very bottom. At this point, the fader sends a false value of 45. I continue to test faders, and most work properly, some slightly glitchy. Then I came across the envelope key follow fader, and the screen just kept jumping to the sustain level, which is on the next row down. This was a little bit more worrisome, but we'll be cleaning things up first, and then we'll see if that's still an issue. Okay, it's time to start opening things up. We'll start with removing the 6 screws on the bottom. We can now separate the top from the base. There are 2 connectors to unplug to get the bottom completely disconnected from the top. The screen is right here. The black and white wires supply power to the electroluminescent backlight that we are replacing. There's 54 fader caps to remove before the circuit board can come out. We'll do that before we remove the screws. There are 16 screws that hold in the main board. 3 of the 4 screws that hold the center support bracket also contain ground wires. Also, note that the bracket faces towards the front of the programmer. Be sure to remember that for the reinstallation process. The board is now free. That is, once you disconnect this cable from the screen. The dust foam has caught a lot in the last 36 years, but it's in good shape and should clean up nicely. Sometimes this type of foam gets quite brittle. There is a bit of dirt in the slide potentiometers. I'll move the slide pot stems towards the center, Then we'll take a trip down to my work van where there's an air compressor and an air chuck. I'll blow out all the dust I can with that compressed air. Alright, we came down to the van and blew out the slide pods on a really windy day, and before one of these van doors swings and hits me, I'm gonna close up shop here and go back upstairs and get back to cleaning these. Now I'm checking on the buttons to see if we should pop them out for cleaning. They seem to be attached to a heavy-duty adhesive strip, so we'll just leave them there and clean them in place. The cleaning process begins with loosening up old dirt with a toothbrush. There's a bit of grit here, so this phase is just the beginning for addressing the 56 slide pot grooves. On my PG-1000, the knobs sit above the face rather than in an indented groove, so cleaning that programmer is way easier. Next up, I'll vacuum off the loose dirt. While I have the vacuum going, it's time to hit the foam. I really had to hold all around where I was vacuuming. Then I followed that with a loop of tape as a mini lint roller to gather the remaining dust. Next up, we start with some multi-purpose spray cleaner and wipe down the face of the programmer. Then it's Q-tip in the groove time. As you can imagine, this goes on for a while. Quite a while. And even longer than that. But after all this fun, it's time for the screen replacement. Even though this LCD has 2 rows of characters and the Alpha Juno only has 1, they are both the same size physically and therefore take the same size Luma strip. So I went right back to eBay and reordered an 18mm by 74mm EL panel backlight. For some reason I didn't get the footage of changing the Luma strip, but luckily it's the same process for the Alpha Juno screen, and I do have some poor resolution footage of that repair. On the PG-1000 screen, the leads don't wrap around. Their pads are on the same side of the board as the screen. The new strip has writing on the back, so you'll know which side to face up. Next up, you wash off the leftover flux with some isopropyl alcohol. There's no footage of this because I forgot to do this that time, and I also forgot to do that this time. And we'll see just what the results of that can be a little further on in this video. And then clip off the excess leads. But first we'll have to reinstall it. You can see here that the solder pads are on the front side of the circuit board, unlike the one I repaired in the demo clip. There are 4 screws to hold down this screen, but one magically appears for me. A nice clean foam to install before the main circuit board. Then I can align the board with the body, and all 56 of those slide pot stems should come through the back and we can get the screws installed. As we recall from earlier, the metal Z-bar points towards the front, and we attach the 3 grounds to the bar as we screw it in place. This display cable needs to be clicked in place and the rest of the screws can be installed. Time to get the base. Now we can reattach the LumaStrip power supply and the connector for the power supply / MIDI board. And 6 screws to hold our base to the face. And now we can get to replacing 54 slider caps. Maybe one day someone will 3D print me 2 more, so I can have all 56. I believe I used to.
Well, upon powering up, I instantly saw an improvement with the brand new electroluminescent strip, but I also noticed some artifacts on the top row being caused by the bottom row. This is what happens when you forget to clean the flux off the board. You gotta clean it off with some alcohol. I'm lucky this didn't permanently damage anything before I got it cleaned. I'm not gonna show you that whole process, because I had to tear it apart again real quick and whatnot, but it's done and it looks nice and clear now, no more artifacts. The slider test resulted in 100% restoration of all functions, so there's no sliders to replace, and I'm happy about that. Everything works fine. There's a couple slider caps to replace, but whatever. They still work without them. The programmer looks way better as well. It's painted, so the original sheen is hard to bring back. There's a little bit of pitting, a little bit of scratches, but overall, it looks wonderful, and I'm pleased at how clean it got. Well, that's going to be it for this video. I'd like to thank you for stopping by. I'm already working on the next project, so I hope to see you then.